Hello? Can y'all hear me?
Perfect,
Yeah.
Kyle.
Oh, nice. Nice to see you guys. Thanks for having me.
Excited to talk here. Like I said, when we were at Met Dobby, I'm not sure if you were. Oh, you were a speaker there, but we didn't get to connect. I don't think face to face. Nonetheless, Kitty had a lot of good things to say, as well as the rest of the Meteor team and other people around. So I'm excited to dig in and see what the hype's about here.
Yeah, it was an incredible event. We were showcasing our new Launchpad, which basically enables vendors and creators to tokenize their agents and earn revenue from them. We basically released a new economic model that has never been done before. You can tokenize agents like virtuals, but our focus with the Swarms marketplace is to really focus on making these agents real world and eligible for B2B use. So you can creators can earn creator fees when they launch an agent, and they could also earn revenue from the agent itself. So companies can use these agents, and then the creators and the token holders will also earn revenue. So it's like a completely new economic model, and that's what we were presenting at Met Dobby.
So what made you want to go down the Launchpad? It almost feels like there are more Launchpads today than tokens themselves. What kind of gave you that motivation? Was it because the system you've seen in the past is broken, or just curious on your thoughts there?
Yeah, a lot of so there's a lot of meme launchpads, but there's only really a handful of agent launchpads. And our thesis is that agents will be able to generate vast amounts of revenue pretty soon. And some agents are already generating tens of thousands of dollars in revenue per month on our marketplace. And so our thesis is that agentic capital markets are going to be humongous. And at some point, they might even be bigger than human capital markets. And so we're really just trying to create the infrastructure that will enable creators and vendors and institutions to earn revenue from their agents. And we're basically providing them the capital and liquidity layer to make that happen. But it's not really like a meme. It's not like a meme launchpad. Most of the agents on our marketplace are real world and B2B focused. So that's kind of like the distinction. And in comparison with virtuals, most of the agents on virtuals are basically companies cannot use them. They're mostly just meme coins, and these agents will just post on Twitter. That's not what we're doing. Our focus is to make these agents applicable in the real world and also generate a fully sustainable economy. Whereas virtuals, in virtuals, when you do something on virtuals, there's just a token. There's no way to earn revenue from your agents. So it's just like a token. It's just like a meme coin. And we think that economic model is severely flawed.
So the key difference here is your Launchpad has maybe an SDK or a stack or something where these agents are real world practical and they actually make money. I think you even said some of your agents currently on your platform are earning thousands of dollars today.
Yeah. So we have a couple of agents. We have X-Ray GBT, which basically analyzes X-rays. We have another really good agent called Equity Agents. Equity has made, I think, around $17,000 this month. I think since it launched on December 1 or 2. So we have demonstrated that these agents can earn lots in revenue. And not too many people know about this, but for a consecutive 4-day period, we were the 4th biggest launchpad on all Solana. We were only behind Bonk, and we did was it $7 million in volume, and we had 7,000 traders. So the demand for agentic capital markets is there, and over time, the people say the agent meta has diminished or it's gone. The agent meta has never diminished. The biggest company in the world is AI, and AI will only continue to get bigger over time. The Solana market and the crypto market is just, as of right now, a little bit impaired. And but our focus is that in the long term, the agentic capital markets and the agent meta will be the biggest meta of all time. And that's just a simple fact.
Okay, and that's a very bold claim, and I don't think I disagree with you. I think crypto may be stinting right now in terms of growth with AI, or not seeing it, not realizing it. But yeah, AI continues to grow faster and more powerful than I think ever before. But I don't want to get too far ahead of us. We got to get a history here because you guys have a bit of a history going on. You've had a token for a while. So Kyle, can you start us with your background? You guys have a ton of stars on GitHub. how did you get to where you are today, this recognition? Just give me the whole history rundown and then a bit about yourself.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, so Swarms started off as a research project more than 3 years ago. It was a part of my research lab, Agora, and Agora was essentially like an open source AI research lab. We just did AI research, and the best like performing project that we had ever done in Agora, we built a bunch of models, custom like transformer models and like just like very technical models. Swarms was by far the best performing project that we'd ever done, and we decided to spin this off into a company. And so me and my two other co-founders, we decided to transform Swarms into a real company last February. So we were building the framework, like the core Python framework, for more than 3 years now. It was one of the first agent frameworks of all time, ever. We created the official company in February. And all throughout last year, we were mostly focused on building the core framework, the core Python framework. And this year, or in the beginning of this year, we launched our token. The token was one of the top 4 biggest agent projects on all Solana. Our all-time high was like almost 700 million or something close to that. We've never stopped building. This year, we created our Rust framework, which is the fastest and highest performance agent framework of all time. There's never been an agent framework on Rust before us. We also created our API, which is like our hosted end-to-end infrastructure for companies that want to deploy agents in the cloud. And so we have Rust, we have our cloud, and then as of last week, we now have our marketplace. And so our ultimate vision at Swarms is to essentially build like all the infrastructure people need to create agents, launch those agents, and then monetize those agents. That's our ultimate vision.
Okay, this is really interesting. So you went from doing AI research to, your research kind of directed you towards creating Swarms. You created Swarms and you're like, hey, this is so successful and maybe interesting that we're going to actually fully jump ship from the research lab right now and spin this into our own company. And it's kind of since then taken off. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
I love that. That's awesome.
So I do have a question on this. Like back in the beginning of the year, we remember the AI run. I think all of us kind of were pretty excited about it because it's the first time like you had real tradable AI things. Like, I mean, you can't trade open AI in the stock market. So it's like, all right, now all these things are popping up in crypto. And it was this crazy speculative fervor. I'd love to ask you like where you see the value capture here. Like, is the value in the launch pad? Is it in the agent itself? Is it in the tokens like Swarm tokens? Like where is the value created and captured?
So this is like we've created a very unique ecosystem and economic model. Like if you zoom out a bit and you look at the entire system, I would say like there's going to be a lot of value capture in the agents that people are launching on the marketplace and on the launchpad. Like these agents are already starting to generate 5 figures. Soon that'll be 6 figures. And hopefully after that, those agents will be making 7 figures. And you can keep scaling. And so the revenue that these agents make not only goes to the creator, but it also goes to the token holders. So if you own a specific token of an agent on the marketplace, you're actually getting sent Solana to your address. And so you basically, it's like fully passive income. And when you own the token of an agent, you're basically reserving the right to collect revenue from that agent. And so it's a very, very unique system, and it's surprisingly doing very well, especially in this market. Like we never expected to be anywhere near the top 10 launch pads on all Solana. And like, it's just been completely absurd, even in this market. And if we were in a bull market and more traders and more investors were investing in agents and AI related projects, I think we could be doing like maybe tens of millions of dollars in volume.
Get us back there, Kai. We would love to be in that market.
Kick off the bull run for us.
Yeah, like if our launchpad was around in December and January, we probably we would have done amazing. Like we would have changed the entire agent landscape, and it probably would have like extended its lifespan a little bit more. Because when like virtuals, as I mentioned with virtuals, like these are just like meme agents. These are not like revenue producing agents that are economically sustainable. And if these agents aren't earning revenue, like the system will just collapse at some point because it's just a token, and the token is mostly speculatively, like it's mostly like its valuation is very speculative. So, but when you have revenue, you can start to like quantify the valuation much more efficiently. And yeah,
Okay.
so that's kind of like the projects that are launching on Swarms. For our ecosystem and token, it's different. So when we announced at Mid-Dhabi, we're going to be doing a pretty interesting tokenomics updates. So we're going to be allocating revenue that we generate from the launchpad into buying back Swarms, and also making a treasury of the top projects and the top agents on the marketplace. So we'll be buying back these projects tokens, and hopefully that'll strengthen the ecosystem and just make it much more sustainable than other marketplaces and ecosystems.
Okay, I want to. There are two questions I have from this. I think start us off by maybe framing this conversation a bit, and show us I want to envision a world where we exist in an agent economy, and if you want to maybe survive at some point, you have to have your own agent producing you revenue in some sort of way. I think when you envision, sorry, I just had something pop up. When you envision the future of the world, is this a agent-driven world? And can you kind of put us in your shoes, maybe just on what you're building towards?
Absolutely. So the ultimate mission of Swarms is to build the agent economy. We believe fundamentally that the agent economy will be at least 10 times more valuable than the entire aggregate human economy. At some point, agents will be doing every single job and profession in this world, and they'll also be able to start their own companies. And so when agents are able to start their own companies, it's going to be very soon that we see this kind of like singularity in agent corporations versus human corporations. And we believe that agent corporations are going to do much better than humans. Agents are already better programmers than humans. They're better X-ray analyzers and diagnosticians. They're already better doctors. They're already better manufacturing specialists. Like agents now have already eclipsed the human capacity in most professions and most jobs. And so the only thing that's really left and in solving agents is understanding how these agents scale and how they scale when they're communicating and collaborating. And that, understanding that is a core focus at Swarms. And so, and if we could do that, if we could enable agents to communicate effectively at scale, we can essentially start building the building blocks for fully autonomous agentic corporations and really start to see like the initial pillars and the initial inception of the agent economy. And so that's just with like digital agents. When the volume of robots and when we start manufacturing more robots, that's also going to change the physical world. And so mostly now the agents are mostly digital entities, but when we start like mass producing robots, that's also going to change the physical world as well. Like agents or robots that can do construction, that can do surgery. Pretty soon, like within the next 10, 20 years, most of the economy and most of the economic growth is going to be agentic. And human like GDP growth will amount to very little.
We talk about this on the show all the time. There's a project we follow closely, Spencer Kinney from Orgo, which is doing computer use agents. In that case, it's kind of just like the normal like Claude frameworks, and then they spin up a virtual computer, and the Claude the Claude agent works on that computer on like computer use tasks, and it's up to the user. Let's say I'm an entrepreneur, I can build a workforce that way, someone doing these, and then the agents can talk to each other, all this kind of stuff. You're envisioning maybe a little different. It's not computer use. The agents are these entities. They go out, and the money that they've earned currently on your platform, are those trading fees, or are those actual, like, I reviewed an image at a doctor's office and I got paid for that task? Like, how do you see the agents actually fulfilling the job and actually receiving the payment?
Yeah. So the revenue that I talked about, like the agents earning 5 figures, are like through API calls. So that's not like, that's excluding the trading volume fees.
Right.
If I included that, I'd be significantly higher. But what I was talking about earlier was, so essentially the way that it works is you basically call this agent's API and you can pay in fiat or you can pay in Solana or USDC. So you call the agent's endpoint and you basically pay the agents. This revenue then gets sent to the creator of the agent and also gets sent and distributed to the token holders. And so that's essentially like how
Can you explain what calling an agent endpoint actually is for those that aren't maybe technically versed?
Yeah. So it's basically just like calling the specific API for the agent itself. It's basically like how APIs are how developers communicate between apps, and so it's like a non-user interface way of communicating with the agent itself. So you send an
like visiting a website but not actually seeing it. It's just like I'm using the service, but I'm not seeing it visually.
Yeah, precisely. That's basically how it is. APIs are how apps and everything basically talk to each other. That's not like a user interface. When you use a user interface like Twitter, there's a bunch of API calls that like get the information from the database and put it in the front end. And so, like with our system, you call the agent's API because most of the volume and adoption is mostly developers. So developers basically take this agent, they take the API, then they put that into their app. So, for example, this team is building this X-ray analysis app, and they're working with like 500 hospitals in the U.S. and they're using the X-ray agents. Basically, what happens is they call the API of the agent, and then they render the results on their user interface. And then they pay every time. Every time they call the agent, they pay. If they don't call the agent, they don't pay. So it's like usage backed. When you use the agent, then you pay. If not, then you just don't pay anything.
Okay. And when you think about these agents that are currently on your marketplace or have launched through your launchpad that are making 5 figures, are these ones you've created, or are these individuals that have gone on and created them yourselves using maybe your tech stacks?
No, this is not us. This is the community. These are individuals. And actually, yesterday we announced our Foundry program. So we're going to be starting working with institutions and enterprises to launch agents that they may be using internally. And we're essentially going to help them like build the agents, optimize the agents. We're going to help them monetize the agents, and we're going to vet them. And we're also going to help them, gain liquidity. We're going to help them with marketing, and we're also going to help them get listed on tier 1 exchanges and a vast array of other benefits. So we're really going to start pushing into the B2B enterprise market because that's where all the agent adoption is. Agent adoption in consumer markets, like things like virtuals, is like very low. And the potential for revenue growth in those markets is like, it's not very high. But the B2B adoption of agents is where all the money is. And that's where like all the volume and all the adoption is. Because enterprises have a necessity to adopt agents. Because if they don't, then their competitors will beat them and they will go out of business.
So you're almost like a agent accelerator program, right? You take these agents that are built on your platform and then accelerate them via, plugging them into businesses, relationships, etc.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So on this, like, because let's say I'm, a US, I got all these regulations around healthcare. I can't just like plug any sort of AI into my healthcare product. They probably have to have some like HIPAA licensing and all this kind of stuff. So like, does this solution make sense in that use case, or is there a specific type of enterprise client that would use kind of a more crypto native platform like this? Or does an enterprise client even know they're using a crypto native platform? Maybe that's the case.
So they don't know. And that's right. The good thing. I don't think it's like Swarm started off as a, just like an AI project. We're not really we don't really brand ourselves as a like crypto native project. Our fundamental product is agents, building agents, monetizing agents. And the monetization and the payment methods for this can involve crypto, but a lot of our users don't even know they're using crypto at all. And so the experience is just very simple. What was your first question? You said something right.
It was more so just like why an enterprise would use, let's say, a crypto native platform like this versus just going to a vendor and saying, give me some AI software that's HIPAA compliant for my, imaging recognition.
Yeah. So it's like crypto is still an option. It's not like by default. It's always an option. We've always made it optional. You could actually even publish agents on the marketplace that don't even have a token associated with them. So it's all like completely optional. And if like, for example, like a lot of our users that pay in Solana and USDC are mostly overseas. So we have lots of enterprises in China that are starting to get on the marketplace, and they cannot pay in traditional fiat. It's just very difficult. So they mostly opt in for USDC or just Solana.
Interesting. Yeah. That's a great use case actually yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, especially like a lot of the agent adoption in America is like really, really strong. But like countries like China, countries like Singapore, their adoption of agents is growing really, really fast. And, since we're an American company, paying us in USDC, like US dollars, is just very difficult. So they could pay us or pay our creators and our vendors in Solana, USDC, and other methods as well. And I just remembered about the HIPAA thing. So our APIs are actually HIPAA compliant. They're also ISO compliant. And we've achieved basically like every large certification that one could get for enterprise software. So we are like a HIPAA licensed products. So, yeah.
Could you maybe walk me through the process? Let's say I want to, I have no coding experience, but I want to go launch an agent in some field that I see a need for, right? There's a gap in the market. I want to launch an agent for it. Can you walk me through the steps of that, what it looks like, how much coding knowledge I need, et cetera?
Yeah, so there's two product types on the marketplace. So an agent, by definition, includes code. So it would have to have code of some kind. So you'd have to know how to code, or you could have an agent build your agents. You could use Cursor or like other platforms. Like I autonomously generate most of the agents I use on a daily basis. I don't like configure them manually. I just have another agent that makes them. And so that's a very simple process. And so the second product type are prompts. So prompts don't have any code included. And so prompts are just the very extensive natural language instructions that you would give an agent. And then the end user can choose what model to use and what tools that agent has. So you could choose like Claude, you could choose Gemini, you could choose GPT-5, and like any other model that you would want. And so prompts basically just don't have code associated with them. They have instructions, they have memory, and they might have like a miniature data set to help it excel in its specific task.
Okay. There's already been a ton said, so maybe you've mentioned this or briefly gone over it, but I want to hear it again. So why did these agents have or need a token?
So the reason why they need a token is because, so essentially like the economic system that we wanted to create was that we wanted people to invest in these agents. And so we wanted them to create essentially like a way of bringing in believers and supporters, and essentially allowing them to become just more than just like some simple entity. We wanted to essentially build communities around these agents. We wanted creators to attract potential contributors. And so it's not, it is an economic benefit, but it's all like there's much more benefits than just economic. And it also allows people to hedge their bets on which agents will do better. And so that's also another benefit of creating a token for each agent. People can place their bets on specific agents, and those agents might do really well. And if they do really well, then the holders and the investors will earn revenue from that. And
okay,
so
could you get into that part a little bit on how the holders and investors can get access to the upside of these agents?
Yeah. So so essentially, like whenever you buy a token for an agent on our marketplace, whenever the agent generates revenue, 50% will be sent to the creator. This is not volume trading fees. There's still 0.5% of creator fees, volume fees for the creator, but this is revenue. So there's two types of revenue. The agent revenue, when they call the API, 50% of that gets sent to the creator, and the other 50% gets distributed amongst every single token holder. So does that make sense?
Yeah, and is this like is this binded by a contractual obligation, or I know some payments in fiat, some's in Solana, some's in USDC. Is this in a smart contract, or how do we guarantee that this? Because that's been like the biggest question I think with a lot of these ownership tokens or equity tokens or what. It's like, how do these holders have protections, and how do we know that they're actually going to be streamlined this value that was kind of promised to them?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So there is a smart contract for this using a Merkle-backed process. And we also created our own, essentially, we call it ATP. So it's similar to X402 if you've heard about it. But our framework, ATP, stands for Agentic Trade Protocol. Basically, the way that it works is it's a payment protocol that does use the 402 gateway. So when you call an agent, you basically you call the agent's API. And when you call it, you'll have to pay. And then when you pay, the usage or the fee is dynamic. So depending on the input, depending on how big the input is and how big the output of the agent is, we charge based on how big these inputs and outputs are. And they're called tokens. They're not crypto tokens. They're AI tokens. But we basically calculate how much the agent's response is worth. And then we charge the user, which is mostly, in this case, an enterprise, that in Solana or USDC. And so that's essentially how it works. We're going to be releasing much more information about ATP pretty soon. We're going to make it like an open source standard, and we have lots of plans for that in the future. But it's mostly just been integrated on the back end, and no one really knows about it. But yeah, it's essentially like a much better and more improved version of X402, but just for Solana.
Could you talk a bit about the importance of X402 and how this is going to kind of redefine agent-to-agent payment and just maybe payments as a whole?
Yeah, X402 is very interesting because basically in the old, like the traditional way of using APIs, you would have to get an API key, and you would have to probably pay in fiat. And now, since most of the world outside of America is starting to adopt AI and agents, they can't pay in USD fiat. They don't have like an American Express card, or they don't have, like a MasterCard. And so the benefits of X402 is that it's completely permissionless. So to get access to whatever endpoint that you're using, whatever API, you basically just pay, and then you just get the response. And so you could pay now in, Base or USDC on Base or Solana. And that's like I would say that's the biggest benefit, being able to permissionlessly access an API by paying in crypto. I think that's like the biggest benefit, because before you would not be able to pay, you would have to pay an API in US dollars or whatever currency or wherever the company's from. You would have to pay in their native system.
Right.
That has completely changed. And now anybody around the world can access an API by paying in Solana, Base, and etc.
Do you think this will lead to one of the biggest onboarding events we've kind of seen for crypto? Do you think like agent-to-agent payments and the ability to bring this kind of capital on chain is going to lead to one of the bigger onboarding events we've ever seen in crypto?
I think it will. I think especially now with just the amount of usage that we're seeing, as I mentioned before, countries like China, Malaysia, and a bunch of other countries, for a long time, they have not been able to access American AI. So when I was in Hong Kong, I couldn't even access OpenAI's API. I couldn't use Grok. I couldn't use Gemini. And so we're going to start seeing a mass democratization of agents and AI across the entire world. Whereas before, it's mostly just been in America. If you're in America, you could use Gemini, you could use Grok, you could use Claude. But it's very difficult outside of America. Maybe if you're in a Western country, somewhere in Europe, it's somewhat simpler. But for Asia, Southeast Asia, South America, it's just very difficult to get hands on the latest AI and agents. So I think it is going to bring a lot of capital on chain. I think X402 is just the ability to access APIs through Solana and crypto is a massive benefit. And so the markets are going to become much more open now because of X402. You could, there's a bunch of different X402 servers, and they're all different. And you'll be able to if you're around the world, if you're from Malaysia, if you're from Turkey, you could use these endpoints now without restrictions, basically. So
fascinating. I want to get a bit into your tokenomics, because you mentioned they were a little bit different than the tokenomics from those that some of your agents use on your platform. But first, I want to talk about personal revenue. You guys have seen some pretty good success here. Do you guys have any numbers in terms of revenue or like month-on-month growth or year-on-year growth that you've seen you want to talk about?
Yeah. So as of this month, we've done so since December 1st, we've done around 130,000 in revenue. Most of that is actually coming from our Web2 users. So we have a lot more Web2 users now than we do Web3 users. So with the marketplace is doing pretty well and contributing to that total revenue. The month isn't done yet, but the marketplace has contributed significantly to our revenue this month. Our revenue before that was mostly API calls. In fact, 95% of our revenue before this month was just API calls with our API. But now with the Launchpad, the marketplace, that's opened up an entirely new revenue stream for us that's going to be very, very good. So
the 130K in revenue in a month is incredible. What kind of growth does that look like based on previous month?
So it's only been 19 days. Hopefully wow. it's does much better than that before the month ends. So like the past couple of months, we've mostly jumped around like somewhere between like, depends how far back you go, but from like 50 to like 90K per month on average, with like maybe 10-15% growth month over month. But this month it's like, we're almost close to doubling.
Well, that's incredible. Congratulations on the growth. First and foremost, this is a pretty high margin business, right? When you say revenue, like I'm trying to calculate in my mind what kind of comes home. What are margins like in this business? Are you keeping is revenue very close to profit, I guess, in this case?
Yeah, we're very profitable. I would say like our margins around 70%. We do have a lot of like infrastructure costs. So yeah, like infrastructure costs are probably our biggest costs right now in the business. So we're gonna start like trying to find ways of optimizing and trying to lower that cost. And if we do it, it would be very good for us. But yeah, infrastructure is like our biggest expense right now.
And did you say there's a 50-50 profit split between the agent token holders and the platform itself? Like how much of this 130K, let's say, flows through to the economics of like holding the Swarms token?
So wait, can you ask that again?
So I hold the Swarms token. Do I have any benefits from this revenue growth, or does that all that 130K minus infrastructure costs go to you guys?
So we do have lots of infrastructure costs. We also have to pay our team. So in at Dabby, we showcased our new tokenomics update for the Swarms token itself. So we're going to be allocating 30% to Swarms token buybacks. So we'll be buying back Swarms token on the marketplace. On the market, and we're also going to be allocating 30% to buying back the top projects on the Launchpad and on the marketplace itself. And so those are kind of like the biggest benefits for holders. And we're also now starting to basically, like with the buybacks, we're also going to be introducing staking. So you'll make 12%, 13% in APY by staking your Swarms token. So we're still like improving the tokenomics as we go. This is not like the final end of our tokenomics. We're always improving them and trying to find new ways to reward our investors. So yeah.
Is Swarms token currently on Meteora liquidity pools, or was that launched through Pump Fund?
It was launched through Pump. Unfortunately, I didn't know about Meteora when we launched. It was a very like spontaneous event. Sure. It was not planned at all, and it was just like super.
So it was before creator fees, right?
Yeah, it was.
So on that $700 million market cap and all that volume you drove for Pump, how much did you guys see of that?
0.
Oh my gosh. We've heard this story over and over again, and it just like, I can't believe we've given Alan and Pump all this money and gotten 0 in return.
Yeah, I mean, it's very unfortunate. I mean, the money would have been nice. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna say no to
Oh,
that.
dude, it would have been incredible for your team.
Yeah, like yeah, it would have been very helpful for us. But I mean, there's nothing we could do.
Yeah, you can't do anything about the past. Yeah.
Yeah, we can't change the past. And if we keep growing at this rate, like we'll make more revenue, like legitimate revenue from the API and from the marketplace than we would have made from the like creator fees. So
Yeah.
it's not like, yeah, like we're not like, I'm not thinking about this too much.
Good.
So back to Dom's question though, are you thinking of migrating to Meteora pools and adding like some sort of fee to it?
Getting the fees would be, I would say like, that would be nice, but the thing is though, we do not want to screw over our investors because we love them and we love our community. So like, you have to make a new token and
well, I think there's ways to migrate actually. There's a platform called migrate.fund that basically they hold a contract open for all the existing token holders. They all deposit, and then there's you get 1-to-1, but there's also a kind of like a period where you might get 70 cents on the dollar if you're late. So it kind of encourages people to like go and actually do it. And then there's a period post migration where you'll also be able to migrate still, but it's like 50 cents on the dollar. So they kind of have this scale.
I'll give some pushback on that though. I think migrate.fund is great for maybe some of the Believe projects and stuff, but Swarms launched now so long ago. You got to imagine a ton of those holders are kind of just idle, like on chain.
Well, and that's the kind of also potentially the negative, but also the opportunity is it's kind of can act like a token burn if a lot of those are kind of like inactive holders.
It's difficult. I do respect Kyle though, for like really trying to be cautious and tasteful.
No, of course.
How you go about this. So maybe we'll let you.
I'm not saying you should do this, but I think the trading fees though are like it can be helpful to what you're doing.
Yeah. I do think, I mean, hopefully, this isn't financial advice. I mean, I would like the token to do really well. I would like to, go back to all-time high and surpass that. And getting free fees from that would be very nice. But again, I just I don't want to fuck up our relationship with investors because we have maintained it really well. And, we're trying to be professional people in this very unprofessional market.
Of course.
With all the virtuals people and Eliza and we would have to consider it and make sure it would be in the best interest of our investors and for our community in general. So
is that something? Obviously, your relationship has deepened quite a bit with Meteora. Is that something you guys are considering looking to do, or not top of mind right now?
I would say as of right now, our complete and utter focus is on improving the marketplace and the launchpad, and also improving our infrastructure for our developer tools. So I think if we would make we're already making more revenue, and we will continue to make more revenue from the marketplace and from the launchpad than we would from the fees of the coin.
So, and the launchpad's on Meteora technology?
Yes, it is on Met.
Okay.
So, that's our focus now. Maybe we could look into this in the future. And
I'll tag Soju in it and say create a simple migration tool.
Yeah.
There you go. So now I do have to ask, you've seen incredible growth, it's in the 19 days post releasing this launchpad. How do you, continue that going and then parlaying that into the following months to continue this growth? What's your strategy there?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So the first step is improving the marketplace and the launchpad. That's step number one. We have to make sure it's a really good product. Everything is functional. There's no bugs or anything crazy. And so that's number one. We've always grown. Most of our growth comes from product-led growth. So we've always been product-led. 16 people on our team out of 18 are developers. Wow. So we only have 2 non-developers on our team. And so Yeah, we've always been product led. We focus on improving the product, making sure that we have the best possible product that we could have at that moment in time. And that's step number one. Step number two would be focusing and doubling down on the Foundry program. So we want to partner up with institutions and startups and enterprises on launching their agents on the marketplace. So that's going to be number two. And number three is we're going to start hiring marketing people and GTM people and people that are just not developers to help grow the platform and start doing a lot more propaganda, as we call it.
we would love to help you with that if you're interested.
Yeah, of course.
We're good at that, actually.
Kyle,
Maybe not the propaganda part, but
who's the target audience here? Are you targeting Web3 bros to create agents, or are you targeting Web2 people to create these agents? Like, curious.
I mean, we're targeting both, but I would say the focus is on just agent engineers and just agent developers, not necessarily in crypto. Because we found that developers outside of crypto right now are much more focused on the tech. So we want to, we want people that are, building innovative and impactful agents, and they're not necessarily just focused on making money, because the money will come as a result of building a good agent. If you just focus on the money, then you will not have a good agent. You need good engineers. You need people that know how to build agents, and that's essentially our focus. Like, we had a really big agent called Quant Agent. The dev is someone that's never been in crypto before. He's never launched a project, and it went to almost 800K market cap on the first day. And that's because the tech was good, and if the tech is good, then everything else will follow as a result. So I would say it's both markets, but with more of an emphasis on just agent engineers, maybe not within crypto.
Yeah, we just had a really good piece released by Boogie, I believe was his name, where he basically said crypto is dead. And I think his main thesis there was we have too many crypto projects marketing to crypto bros and not enough crypto projects just building great technology and using these underlying crypto rails that they're not even familiar with. I think the breakout use case for crypto is building great mainstream products, and then it just so happens to use crypto rails. Like, you think of a Polymarket or Kalshi, a lot of people don't necessarily know they're on crypto rails, but they've done so successful, and it's enabled through crypto. Is that kind of the mindset you have?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I do think I think the culture within crypto is a little bit, in AI, it's much more prolonged. There's no metas in AI. There's no short-term thinking in AI, just AI, no crypto. But a lot of developers and a lot of people in crypto are very short-term focused. And we call it the short-term thinking virus. And so it's like a virus of doubt and anxiety. Once one person has it, it spreads to other people very quickly. And AI just doesn't have that, because AI's performance is literally only going up over time. AI is not going to get dumber next year. It's impossible. Theoretically, it's impossible. So there's no short-term thinking in just AI. And so, but we definitely believe in the core foundational technology of crypto. Solana is my favorite chain of all time. I don't own ETH. I don't own anything else. I just love Solana. Solana is the fastest, has the lowest fees, and it's perfect for agents. Literally perfect. There's no other chain that could even compete with Solana. And even stablecoins as well. Stablecoins are going to radically open up most markets in most industries. And agents especially, it's just perfect. Stable coins and Solana are just perfect for agents. It just makes sense for payments. It's just perfect. Yeah.
So Kyle, I think this is a really interesting question. Someone who's deeply entrenched in AI research, especially you coming from a background where you were, researcher for an AI lab. At what point in time, give me a timeline here. At what point do you think that we have algorithmic trading volume outweighing human trading volume on chain and in the crypto markets?
Well, doesn't it already though?
I guess it probably already does.
It's not agentic. Those are just I would say Wintermute, for example, they're not using agents to trade. They're just using statistical processes. They're just statistics. It's just it's simple math. But I think within the next 2 to 3 years, we're going to start seeing agents trade a lot more frequently, and with a lot more capital. And there's already been a lot of research papers that have studied this extensively, and they've concluded that agents are indeed better traders than human beings. For example, there's this paper called Hedge Agents, where in 1 month, these agents got like a 73% return on options and perps. So it's like, and it's open source. So it's like, I definitely think that agents are going to dominate trading pretty soon.
Okay, rather than just trading, how about just transactions on chain in general? Maybe X402 or
that too. Like it's pretty simple. Like imagine just saying, okay, send 20 or send send this employee's compensation for the month, just like chat interface. You just say, okay, send this employee their compensation, and that's it. It just does it. I don't have to log in into whatever multi.
Would love that.
Yeah, like it's like agents are like they could do this right now. The only problem is just building like the infrastructure for that. So you need a tool that would access your wallet, and the agent would have access to that tool. And so like these tools are really just like the biggest blockade for that happening right now. But agents can totally do that. And then you need the user interface. So how are people going to use that? Building like the API or the backend for an agent is pretty simple. But putting that into a user experience that normal people can enjoy and use every day is pretty difficult. It's not easy. So yeah, you could build the back end, and then the front end is like a whole other problem.
So what's the timeline on that? Agents kind of dominating transactions on chain, in your opinion?
I would say within the next 3 years, 100% within the next 3 years. Yeah.
Okay. You gave us a ton of information, and I'm not sure if Josh has any last minute questions, but I really would just be curious and keen to hear from you. What are you most excited about going forward? Kind of what's the most near plan that you guys have coming up, and maybe give the people something to look forward to as you kind of close off here.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say the Foundry program is, I'm very excited for the Foundry program. We're already working with around 7 different projects that have planned launches. So we can't say too much about them right now, but as we get closer to their launch dates, then we'll reveal more information. But they're very, very useful agents, and they're going to be very impactful. And I think they're going to completely change people's perspective on agentic capital markets and the agent meta. And I think people will see agents for what they really are, which is economically and asset producing entities. And so I'm very, very excited for that. And I'm also very excited to start the first phase of buybacks for the top tokens on the marketplace. So we're going to create a treasury for the top tokens, and we're going to continuously buy them and hold them for the long term. So the entire ecosystem is going to grow very massively with the next couple months, hopefully. And yeah, we just want to build agentic capital markets, and we're going to make sure it happens.
So an interesting conversation we had the other day, and I think this kind of interests me, is like kind of venture capital, except for extremely niche investment categories. The other day we had a guy come on and talk about like indie games, and he basically told, he's been in indie games for a while. He's seen a lot that do well. He knows what does well, but it's kind of like a spray and pray method. 9 out of 10, just like any venture capital, go to 0, and the one kind of hits big. Is there have you guys thought about creating some sort of venture capital alongside this accelerator program to, you know the industry better than anyone else, to maybe fund and get the upside of some of these agents?
Yeah, that would be very interesting. I think like an on-chain VC would be pretty cool. We were also thinking about creating like ETF, like mini ETFs, or like maybe like industry-specific ETFs for specific agents on the marketplace. So let's say you wanted to buy an ETF of they're not, ETFs, but it's like a collective like
a basket.
Yeah, it's like an index of a specific type of industry of agents. So like, let's say you wanted to buy the healthcare index. Then you would get, you'd put in X amount of dollars and you would get back tokens. Different
like the H10 or the H25.
Yeah. So you would get back. Maybe we could do something like that. That would be pretty cool. And I think we'll look into investing into like the top projects that launch on the marketplace. We want to support them. We already give them like every type of support they could desire. You know, support with infrastructure, building the agents themselves out, monetizing the agents, and also helping them grow. But I do think there is room to invest in them and be tied to them more strategically.
Yeah, if you're doing this whole accelerator angle, it almost makes sense to have some sort of outside of just the token doing well coming from your platform, have some sort of that upside exposure to it as well. So.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. We do have community grants as well. So we give community grants on the order of magnitude from $1,000 to $50,000. So for specific projects, projects can get non-dilutive funding, and so there's we're starting to provide more ways of helping accelerate growth.
Very cool. I love that you actually are making this work, building a real life kind of revenue generating business. Have you thought about and this goes back kind of to the token and some other conversations, we've really seen ownership tokens become a really big narrative, where in MetaDAO's case, it's people have a claim legally on the underlying revenues and whatnot. And then there's models where there's a senior debt note against the company, and that represents the token. And then others, which is just an SPV of equity or something like that. Have you thought about, or do you think the SWARMS token will forever just kind of be this on platform, kind of protocol governance token?
So yeah, I would say our token, the SWARMS token right now is, I would say, an ecosystem governance token. It's different from equity. We do have equity. Maybe we'll tokenize our equity in the future, but there's still there's still a lot of legal mystery. I would say
totally. Legal mystery is a very light word.
Yeah. But Larry Fink has always talked about tokenizing equities, tokenizing stocks, and I think he's right. It is the future, but it could also be, I would say, a little bit dangerous. For example, there are some projects in Solana that are earning millions of dollars in revenue, and they're only trading at maybe 10%, 20% more than their revenue, and that's wild to me, because these companies in private markets would be valued 50x their revenue. And so I would say if the market becomes extremely greed or extremely fearful as it is now, we could start to see things like that happening, where companies just become too undervalued. And so that's one potential risk in doing that.
But that's what all a free market is, right? I mean, we just had this and we have this conversation every day about the price to earnings of some of these companies. Meteora, good friends of yours, has a price to earnings right now of 2, if you actually talk about the token in terms of that. And you're right, there's a lot of crypto projects that have this skewed ratio in traditional markets or private equity. They'd be much higher, like you said, 10, 20, 30, 50x price to earnings. And we're just not seeing that on chain. But also, doesn't that kind of give us an opportunity that the free market is here for?
Yeah,
and that's the natural competition, though, right? Because you're everyone right now is competing for investors and liquidity and trading volumes, all this kind of stuff. It's you can build a great business, but if you have this equity backed token on one hand of this great AI startup, and then you have a token which you don't really know what it actually represents, a promise for we'll buy back the token, a promise for this, investor might say this is not investable, but this is, right? And then their liquidity goes one way or another. I mean, we're at the beginning of this kind of conversation, but it kind of, we like to ask founders, hey, what are your thoughts on this? So that people can kind of, decide. Because look, it's people have gotten shafted, acquisitions have happened. Zero liquidity has gone to the AXL token or, whatever Circle just bought, and Padre with Pump, and, the example, how many more times does it need to happen to traders? And our loyalty is of course to the traders and investors who watch the show, and we'd like to advocate for them. And not saying this is not a Swarm specific thing, but we do like to ask kind of thoughts and feelings on these things. And until the SEC, I agree, until the SEC provides guidance here, it's you're kind of just shooting in the dark, or as you said, it's very magical at best.
Yeah. It's very interesting because I don't know if the markets are efficient at all. Like
Well, of course not right now.
especially I would say like traditional equities, they might be more efficient than crypto because there's just like it doesn't make economic sense that a company might be earning 15 million in revenue and their token is at like 60 million. Like I don't know. It doesn't make sense in my brain. Like that I don't think that's how like economics works. I mean,
no, but that's representative of how investable. That's representative of how it has nothing to do with the revenue, right? Like Meteor earns $117 million this year in revenue. They trade at $100 million circulating market cap, and it has nothing to do with their revenue. It has to do with how investable their token is, right? Like let's say I'm a family office. I manage $1 billion of capital. And I have a good friend. One of my best friends is one of these people. He looks at 99% of what we talk about on this show and says none of it is investable. They would never put $1 into Meteora. And the reason being is the underlying thing they're buying. They can't point to it and say, we have no claim on any part. Legally, we have no claim on anything, right? They don't care that a smart contract somewhere says, oh, well, we'll buy back the token here and there with revenue. It's just not investable. And that's where you got to like the law needs to change, right? And this is not a criticism of any specific token. This is a criticism of the SEC laws that have not allowed for this. Like even revenue buybacks, dude. I remember revenue was illegal to buy back DeFi 1.0. Everyone thought, oh, if we just buy back with revenue, our token will be worth more. And that ended up not being true. The only thing that seems to be remotely true here is, do you have some sort of tie to the legal obligations? And that's what equity represents. That's why the stock market is worth anything.
Yeah, I do agree with that. It can be good, but it can also be bad. Like in January, there were lots of projects that had $0 in revenue, and they're trading at like 500 million, 400 million, 300 million. Like it can go both ways. Okay, it can go like very bad. Like
as soon as you have revenue, you have something to value against, right?
Yeah, like it could be like super ultra giga undervalued or like super overvalued, and so it's like polar opposites.
Yeah, and I think we're only so stuck up on this conversation now. I know that we're only so stuck up on this conversation now because the market is shit, right?
Yeah,
if the market was doing great, we wouldn't give a rat's
we wouldn't care. We'd be like, oh yeah, hey, here's my product, right?
Yeah, this is I do think the market's going to get better soon, hopefully. I think Solana is like, I don't know how Solana is not,
Does Solana flip Ethereum?
What?
Does Solana flip Ethereum?
I think it will happen. Ethereum is useless. The fees are too high. They have like little to no users. There are apps within Solana that are earning more revenue per day right now than Ethereum itself. Yeah. So it's like, that's like wild. Like that's just incredible. I just don't. I think Ethereum is very outdated technologically speaking, and I also think their market and their community is just. I don't think they move fast enough. Solana moves the fastest. It has the best tech. It has the most users. It has the most volume. It's just the best. Like you can't compete with Solana, and the only reason why it's not like number third or the top third is because of the market. I think it's just like just the way the market is. It used to be number fourth or fifth from what I recall, but I think it should be number third or maybe number two. Yeah. Because it is by default the most useful chain. Like there's no other chain that like you could pay for consumer or even B2B products with that specific chain. So yeah.
No, I think that's an extremely fair take. Kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier, do you guys have any private equity investors or venture capital funding?
Yeah, we do.
You do? Okay. When did you guys get that? Back when you were like originally launching, or is that a recent thing? Kind of understanding timeline.
Yeah, so we raised 2 rounds, pre-seed and seed. This was all last year before we even launched the token.
Oh wow.
Our,
Okay.
our token launch was completely random. Okay, it was completely spontaneous. It was not like a planned event. It was never like it's not something we schemed about for months on end. It just happened.
How then? How was it? Like accidentally woke up and my finger hit pump fun or something like that? Like,
Yeah. So I mean, like, so the story is like, basically one of our angel investors was like, he was showing me a pump, and he was like, I think you guys should create like an ecosystem, a token, and like maybe start adopting more crypto tech like Solana for payments and things like that. And then we just launched it the same day. Yeah, it wasn't really like it wasn't like a it wasn't like a planned event. It was super random, and we never we didn't expect it. We thought it was going to be like $0 or worth maybe like
you're in good company, because like the Believe, I don't know if you've ever heard of Believe, but they had a Twitter launcher where you could essentially like put your @ and then the ticker symbol, and it would create a token. And there were guys of like grade tier 1 startups and tier 1 companies like Dupe, which is like a huge, massive e-commerce company. And he basically tweeted it, and it created a token for him. And then for 3 weeks, he was sweating with his lawyers because he's like, damn, I didn't mean to do that. But, now he has it, and it's doing actually pretty good.
Dupe's the example of one that's worked out. There's 99 others that just abandoned.
Oh, yeah. So. And then Believe imploded, and
yeah. That's that's pretty interesting. But yeah, like our launch was completely random. The chances of it happening were like maybe 5%.
Yeah. But did that contribute to the growth of what you're doing? Like, obviously a lot of people now know about Swarms because of that.
It did. Yeah. Like we got a lot more users on GitHub, and for like all of our developer tools, they got a lot more users. We became slightly, well known on Twitter, which helped us get more developers to use Swarms. And I would definitely say like it has helped us a lot grow. Because before that, we didn't have a marketing team. The company was very small in the beginning of the year and in December. So it's like we were just focused completely on improving our products and the infrastructure, and like there was no marketing whatsoever, basically.
Yeah, I'm not sure what your tokenomics were back then, but a thought that I kind of have, you raised capital prior to launching a token, but then you had this token go up to $700 million valuation, right? So there was market participants who valued your company or what you were building at $700 million. Like, did you at any point take that valuation and say, hey guys, by the way, this token, and maybe I'm incorrect about your tokenomics, so correct me if I'm wrong, but hey guys, the market's valuing this token with no intrinsic value at 700 million. You should give us venture money at some, high valuation. Is that something you guys thought about or did, or curious?
So, I mean, in San Francisco, like the AI VCs and like the VCs that are all investing in AI, they really do not care about crypto at all. So just, to be very blunt, like we did communicate this in the way that you mentioned to a couple of VCs, but they literally could care less. They don't they don't really care. So it's like, for like the biggest VCs, I'd say like maybe if we went to like a crypto VC like Paradigm or something, then it would be different. But then they would want to invest I would say like maybe crypto VCs would have worked, but I mean we already had enough capital. We weren't looking for more capital at that point. So yeah.
Sure. I've just always been curious about an angle, something like that, because like you said, sometimes these tokens get these crazy, sometimes inflated valuations. And it's like, I wonder if
this might change in January. Let's see what the Clarity Act will do, because it might create this really interesting game theory where if you have a VC or an AI startup with a token and there is something tying it legally to some sort of value, that might it could create this competition between products that are like pre-token and post-token. Like at the end of the day, whether you believe crypto or not, it's still a financial value.
Yeah,
like you can say, oh, they don't care about it. I get it, but there's real value there. At the end of the day, when you can sell that and it shows up in your bank account, right? Like it's not like it's just like points on Warzone that you have when you go loot like boxes and you try and buy your friend back because they got like rinsed on Warzone, right? Like it is real money.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think, I don't know, maybe.
I mean, it helped you build your business, right? Like,
yeah.
TBD, I guess we're gonna.
I mean, TBD. Yeah, we're not trying to. It's just an interesting conversation that we're having, by the way. With you,
I need to learn more about the Clarity Act, and I need to just like learn more. I'll probably just make.
I think we all need to learn more about it. We don't know. Yeah.
Like I would need to know like how Trump envisions this to work, because I do think he's going to make it work. You know, he wants it to work, and everyone around him wants this to work. So it's like really just it depends on like how they formulate this. But yeah, like
we'll give you maybe another example here, because so we work closely with this group called SOAR, and they the tokens are legally backed by a senior debt note. So it's a debt against the business. So if there's a liquidity event, the debt has to be paid off, and the only way to pay it off is to go buy the tokens and give the tokens back to SOAR, and then they would write that down against the debt. So that's kind of where it's not equity based, but it's based on some sort of debt mechanism that's against the business. Just to like give you perspective of like what types of conversations that we have every day on this.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I don't think tokenizing equity would be too hard. I mean, like I think it's technically pretty simple. You have a token. It's like, you know, stable coins. It would basically be like the same back-end process. You buy USDC, there is a treasury bill that is bought, and that's basically what it is. Like you would have some token, and when someone buys it, you would assign them ownership over that, you know, that type of stock, whether it's, you know, standard or preferred. And yeah, like I don't think it would be too technically I don't think it would be too technically difficult to make tokenized equity. But like the problem is like when you have tokenized equity, or like when you have equity, like I don't think the crypto market would like companies having tokenized equity, because they would start having 100% ownership. And so there's no like fair launches and tokenized equity is just not going to exist. Like the people that want that just don't know how, you know, businesses work. Because if someone were to tokenize our equity and they were to sell, you know, the token as shares, they would start off at 100% and they would continuously go down and down. Whereas most projects, like especially like Swarms, we didn't have 100% of the token. We started off at 2%.
Wow.
So we had 2% of the token, then we bought back now to like 12%. But that, you know, like if we were to do that as tokenized equity, we would have 100%, and these other projects would have 100%. And like the traders would not like that, because they're going to be like, you're going to rug me, or you know, you know, like they would just be concerned about that. So I think there might be some cultural barrier to that.
Yeah. Okay. Kyle, I hope you go by Kyle, because I've been calling you Kyle the whole time.
Kai, man. Kai, right?
Your full name's Kyle, right?
My full name is just Kai.
I was like, what, Dom? Like, is it a spelling mistake, or is Dom right?
I could have sworn I saw in the pre-show it was Kyle Gomez, but maybe I was tripping.
Yeah, it's just Kai. It's okay though. A lot of people call me Kyle.
Okay, well, I'll correct it, I guess, for the last 2 minutes of this conversation. But we appreciate you, and we don't want to keep you much longer. I think you've kind of inspired me to maybe start asking guests one last question at the end of these. If you had, because you do a lot of research and you're versed in this this AI, you know, scenario, you know, situation. If you had to invest in one sort of vertical right now, and it can't be Swarms, anything other than Swarms, what would you tell the people? Not financial advice, is like you think you're most exciting.
Not financial advice, but please give a little bit.
So like any projects or like
not necessarily crypto projects, just most exciting vertical. Is it CPUs, GPUs? Is it like
Computer
is it
use,
Nvidia? Is it
yeah.
Tesla? Is it like what's your most exciting? Where would you park your money today if it couldn't be anywhere but Swarms?
this is a pretty interesting question because I'm a part-time economist. I've published a couple of research papers on economics, and
Nice.
I think about this very frequently. But I would say honestly, robotics is probably like going to be like there's going to be a robotics meta, not in just crypto, but like the world.
Mhm.
And I think robotics, we're going to start to see like a massive like singularity level explosion of robotics manufacturing, and like the entire robotics market is going to get much bigger soon. So I would probably see like the best robotics, public robotic companies to invest in. And I would also maybe look into commodities. So I'm a investor in gold and silver and platinum.
Nice.
And yeah, gold's doing really well. I love gold. I love gold a lot. Silver is also doing really good. And commodities are also, I like commodities a lot. So
What
I
about
think,
the physical data center business? Do you think that the models and like what DeepSeek innovated, mixture of experts or whatever, there's so much optimization on the model end that the data center business just goes crazy? Because right
We've
now
heard
that is up
returns-
and to the right.
We've heard returns on data centers, it's multi-billion-dollar investments, but the returns are, you can make that back in a year or maybe a little over a year is I think the numbers we've
Yeah,
heard.
like people are paying $8 million per megawatt kind of thing, or $3 million per megawatt. How do you think about the data center business?
I think the data center business is, I think it could go really well, or I think it can go really bad. So, for example, if you're like a data center in some state like, I don't know, Wisconsin, like there might be, companies that would want to use your data center, but in the chance that there isn't, like if a data center doesn't have continuous customers and usage, it will probably just die because you have to pay for energy, you have to pay for chips, you have to pay for like people. There's like 3 really big physical expenses. And so I think it depends on locality. I think it depends on what hardware the data centers have. There's a really good data center company that Blackstone acquired.
Yes.
For,
Applied Digital or something like that.
yeah, I think that like that I would say like that would probably be a good company to invest in. I don't know. Like I would have to learn
One
more.
of the theses around that acquisition though is those data centers are like 30 to 60 megawatts, whereas the big training data centers like XAIs and what all the big oracles of the world are building, the hyperscale, they're like in 1 to 2 gigawatts up to 5 gigawatts.
Yeah, I mean, so the way you can invest in those data centers indirectly is like there might be stocks for specific companies that are building those data centers, but if you invest in Google, you'll, as a consequence, be investing in their data centers or Amazon. Yeah, like I think data centers are like pretty interesting, but like some of the economics, the economics of it, like XAI has, the biggest AI data center in the world right now, but you can't invest in them, or they're not public equity. So yeah, like there probably are some like just data center focused public, equity companies that I think might be doing pretty well, but I don't know any of them off the top of my head.
Well, Kai, that was a great answer. I love your answer.
Legends. Yeah.
I'm a large investor in silver and Tesla. So both of those answers I think are kind of supported by what you just said.
Nice.
So
Let's go.
Dude.
No, I appreciate it. Also appreciate your perspective on everything. The only reasons we ask is just you seem to have a really great business and you've built a really great product offering. And so I know these are the types of questions everyone likes to ask and know about. And so, yeah, that just, why we really cared about this conversation was because you seem like a great builder. So
thank you, Josh. I appreciate that deeply.
Of course.
There you go. We got to get you back on soon. Curious, you guys have done so well already with the Launchpad, and I feel like I've heard very little chatter on the timeline about it. So we got to get you back on in the new year and get some updates later. But this has been a fascinating conversation, so we appreciate you.